Today's spooky spot's having a look at the McFarlane Toys Twisted Fairy Tales Miss Muffet. Sat on a tuffet eating her curds and whey until, oh my god, this giant spider sat down beside her. Didn't so much frighten Miss Muffet away, instead decided to attack Miss Muffet. Spot's going to be having a look at the Twisted Fairy Tales. Every Spot always tries to do one line of figures, and this year's line is going to be the Twisted Fairy Tales. To see more of McFarlane Toys action figures, you can go to www.spawn.com. It is recommended for ages 17 and up. Some choking hazard. You would not want to be choking anything on this spider. Ugh, hate spiders. Back of the package, the infamous McFarlane's Monster action figure line is back. Series 4 focused on beloved fairy tale and nursery rhyme characters, all skewed by the McFarlane vision into something new and horrible. Collectible 6. The figures consist of Humpty Dumpty, Red Riding Hood, Hansel and Gretel, Peter Pumpkin Eater, and Miss Muffet. That being said, Spot's going to take a very terrifying break. When we come back, we're going to get a better look at the Twisted Fairy Tales Miss Muffet. Don't go anywhere, guys. Stay tuned. With Miss Muffet out of her packaging, let's get a better look at this very creepy looking figure. First things first, let's do a little dissection of the nursery rhyme. Little Miss Muffet sat on a tuffet. Apparently a tuffet is a small padded stool with a little notch on the side. That little notch, though, on the side is to peg into Little Miss Muffet's leg. I'll show you guys that in a second. But a tuffet is a padded stool. Who knew? Stool is pretty good. It's got a little more of a gunmetal gray color for the legs. Stool top, or the padded seat, it's almost more like a chocolate brownish red. Further dissecting it. Eating her curds and whey. Curds and whey refers to cheese. The curds and whey, that's the way that the cheese is separated. You separate basically you drain the whey out from the curds and you wrap the curds up to give yourself cheese. And the curds basically form themselves together they give you a block of cheese. In Canada, we also enjoy cheese curds just on their own as well. Curds and whey. I don't know why anyone would want to eat curds and whey, but apparently Miss Muffet does and enjoys it quite a bit. So much, though, that she would go way out in the middle of nowhere to sit on a tuffet and eat this stuff. It's slimy. It looks like it's also sliding out of the bowl because it's also going to be pegged into Miss Muffet. We'll show you that in a second as well. Finally, then we get to Miss Muffet herself. Miss Muffet looks a little bit different. She's wrapped now in this bondage outfit in pink, some spikes on her arms, and very high, not thigh-high boots, but like knee-high boots. Man, maybe about mid-thigh. Her face is wrapped completely up in, again, a bondage kind of mask. Not a wonder she couldn't see that big frickin' spider next to her. She couldn't even see out of her eyes. They were just completely blocked. But there's Miss Muffet for you. Does she have any posability? No, not really. She has head swivel. That's pretty much it. Her arms, I mean, you can move the arms here, but I mean, they're pretty affixed in a way that they're designed for the way that the spider is going to sit beside her. And the spider, let me tell you, is not going to sit beside her, not even close. She is pre-posed. You can't really do all that much with her. I mean, yeah, again, you can move limbs, but like the limbs are kind of intended to be a certain way with Miss Muffet. And there you have Miss Muffet. Further moving on to the spider that sat down beside her. Of course, she could not have seen this giant spider. I would have seen it. I would have been hightailing it over the hill. Tra-la-la, I would have said. Screaming, of course. The spider is huge. That is a giant spider. I wouldn't say it's a tarantula, but it's a pretty scary looking spider. It does have posability, but not much. You can move the legs, but the problem is, in fact, when you get out of packaging, you have to adjust the legs because they're all kind of squished together. When you start moving the legs, though, because these are on little independent ball joints, sometimes the legs will pop themselves off. But you can do a little bit of adjusting and get them tailored to exactly the way you want them, but not by much. That's basically as much movement as you can see that it'll do. They'll swivel, but you know, again, they're kind of designed to be a certain way. And actually, I think now that I look at it, these two legs are reversed. I'm going to peg these, unpeg these, because I'm looking at this side of the spider's legs, and I'm looking at the other side of the spider's legs, and yeah, it does look like these legs are supposed to be the other way around. Perhaps when I popped the legs off, I put the legs on the blasted the wrong way. My bad. Go ahead and peg those back into place. And you can see how they sit. There's a little ball joint. There's a little ball socket. And those spider legs, you kind of want to just twist them as you're popping them into place. You should hear, there you go, a rewarding pop. A pop when it goes into the socket. There we go. And there goes another leg. One of the problems, really, for the fact that this whole thing is just really a one scary looking diorama, you really don't need the legs to even move. I mean, they could have been just pre-posed, but I guess they wanted to make them somewhat posable, living up to the action figure description that these toys have. Very creepy looking spider. Ew, I so hate spiders. It's just one of my things I really don't like. So to kind of put everything together, she does have a couple of pegs on her hands, right there. She has also a couple of holes. There's a hole there, and there's also a hole by her leg. Where's the other hole? Okay, there was a secondary one here. Oh, no. There's a section for her tuffet, because her legs, oh, it's right there. Because her legs are all black, it's hard to kind of make out where it was. But what you want to do, basically just have Miss Muffet like this. That's basically what you want it to accomplish. And then the spider will sit down beside her. Oh, so gross. But what you want to do is take the tuffet. Ideally, I guess the thing is, the tuffet, she was sitting on it, and the spider sat down beside her, or translated out to, the spider leapt on her, and she fell off her tuffet. Eating no more curds and whey, let me tell you. And you can basically get something that looks like that. You could adjust it ever so slightly. I don't think there's a specific way to peg into place. You kind of just have her as if, you know, she's fallen off. Ah! She's fallen off the tuffet, eating these delicious curds and whey. Then take the curds and whey, and they can clip to her shoulder, so you have something that looks like that. Miss Muffet, well, I mean, that's your fault right there. You can't see, you're not going to see this creepy looking spider creeping up beside her. And what you want to do then is take the spider leg, and you want to peg it into Miss Muffet's hand. And then there's a secondary peg. You can see kind of what I'm talking about here. It's not so much a articulated figure as it is a super sculpted, super creepy diorama. And then you want to take Miss Muffet's shoulder, peg that into the leg of the spider, and the end result, if you can get the tuffet back into place, I'm going to kind of just hold it up so you guys can see what I'm talking about here. Going to peg that into place. There we go. And this is what you get. Miss Muffet has been knocked over her tuffet by this extremely giant spider, and in the process she has knocked down her curds and whey. She is trying desperately to hold back this spider, but some advice for you, Miss Muffet. Perhaps if you were not wearing a mask, you could see this giant spider in the first place. Spiders don't generally walk very fast. I guess unless you're a giant spider, then they could probably hop. Oh, I'm going to have nightmares tonight. But if I'm seeing said spider way back there, I'm going to run. I'm going to run. I'm not even going to look back. I'm hopefully not going to trip over stuff like I do in like horror movie characters always do. I'm going to be nowhere in the vicinity when said spider wants to sit down beside her. Maybe the spider just wants curds and whey. Brother, let him have it. Just give it to him and be on your way. It's a conversation piece. That's how I would describe this and really a lot of other Marvel, well, McFarlane toy pieces. They're all essentially conversation pieces. There's something that somebody's going to walk over and say, "What do you got over there?" "Oh, that's Miss Muffet." The one that sat on a tuffet, the very same. "What's up with the spider?" "Well, it sat down beside her." "Well, that's a pretty big spider." Yes, well, you know Miss Muffet's biggest problem then. It's not a bad piece. It certainly paints the rhyme, the nursery rhyme, in a much darker scheme, darker tone than what we maybe have grown up used to. But it's a fun piece if you want to consider, fighting off a giant spider to save your own life, caring very little to the curds and whey that's now fallen beside her. Today's spooky spot. Ew, I hate spiders so much. We're having a look today at the McFarlane Toys, Twisted Fairy Tales, Miss Muffet, and her spider. In your nightmares tonight. Certainly stay tuned, guys. Spot's going to have more spooky spots heading to you this month of Spottober. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.